Yeah, this is Konganaya outside of Demico, the western pavement of Demico, and they are of course performing some cultural tunes Saturday morning.
welcome in my country. Carry me back home. Sound like I got a frog in my throat. Hey, morning, y'all, morning. Welcome to another program of BUXTONIAN Morning Time. Yes, I'm okay. I'm getting there. I'm feeling much better. Of course, you know, a sore throat doesn't just leave as it comes. Old people got a way of saying sickness does come on the airplane. Sickness does come on the airplane, but you go up and snail back. Any of you ever heard that? Sickness comes on the airplane but goes on snails back. It comes quickly. Sometimes you don't even recognize it. And then when it is there, it takes forever to go any place. And so that's a challenge. And each of us, I'm sure, would have experienced that challenge sometime or other. We can try to speed up the process. But some things are just the way they are. I'm doing all that I've been advised to do. I'm doing all that I think is best to do. And so I can tell you I'm feeling better physically. Less headaches. Less body pain. But the throat, and you know, the throat right now is the tool of work. I speak a whole lot. Throughout my life, my voice has been my tool. As a teacher, chalk and talk, if you want to say that. Excuse me. So I always have to express myself. But the reality is, you do what you have to do within the confines of what you can do. Right? But let's talk this morning. I woke up this morning. I'm a person, I tell people I don't generally put plans on paper. But I usually make mental notes. And I've been thinking, I always think a whole lot about what I do and why I do it. And what can stop me from doing it. And what can encourage me to do it even better. Right? And so even while I try to rest a whole lot for the past couple of days, because of this health situation, I've been thinking a lot. And the question came to me this morning, sometime in the wee hours. Best thinking hours for me are the wee hours of the morning, quiet time. Why activism? Why activism? You've been in activism for the last, 32 years or something, perhaps. More than 3 decades. Why activism? Why you hold on to this activist lifestyle? And the simple answer is the simple answer is there are people there who need representation. There are people there who don't have a voice because nobody listens to them. Nobody considers to them. And they say injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And so long as there is injustice, somebody needs to speak on behalf of those who are being treated unjustly. And so I will, in my next life, choose activism again. Because I think it is important that those of us who believe that we have a voice, who have the listening ear of somebody or the other, it is important that we use our voices to highlight the plights of others, and so that their issues can be addressed and their lives changed. And so I will forever choose activism. A lot of people refer to me as a politician. But, excuse me, the other morning I referred to Dr. Hines as a politician, and I smiled at his response. I know I felt it. He was more embarrassed than angry. Because the reality is, he expected me to know better. He never told me anything after the program, but I reflected and I knew that, right? Because we came from a school of thought. Um, Dr. Hines has had an influence in my life as a teacher, as a community activist, as a political body, and all of that. But all of us were influenced in some way, shape, or form by people like UC Kwayana, Moses Bagwan, Rupert Rupmarine, Josh Ramsamy, right? All Bonita Harris, and Karen D'Souza, all WP activists. If you were to check historically, I don't think any of those people I mentioned ever referred to themselves as politicians or saw themselves as politicians. They always saw themselves as activists, interested in the well-being of the people, Working People's Alliance. They have always been on the side of the working people, always on the side of the oppressed and the oppressed, right? And like I say, I would choose it again. If I'm to choose ever again, I will choose it time and time again, because that is really where my heart is, representing the interest of the people. Why am I telling you this? Because when I reflect, for the last 18 months or so, I've really knocked heads with a lot of people. And a lot of people are of the opinion that me knocking heads, throwing belly punches and so on, is personal. And nothing personal about what I do. And nothing personal. They say all politics is local. It might be local to my community, my Afro-Guyanese community. It might be local to my Guyanese community, because each and every one of us need a fair day, a just day in this land. But person to person, it's really not personal. Let me tell you that. I deal with my personal issues on a different level. People know me. And I dare say, not a lot of people know me. But people who know me will know that I can be a very, very personal person, very private, that is. I don't discuss a lot of my personal business, right? There are few people who will know my personal stuff, because I deal with my personal issues on a different level. But when it comes to activism, I don't believe in silence. I don't believe in sitting at a table and handle certain situations in a hush-hush manner. I believe in openness, open and frank discussion. The people with concerns must be aware of what is happening. And so I come this morning with the intention of continuing to address not James Bond, but the situation which currently exists in Melanie. Right? Because I think a lot is brewing in Melanie that residents of Melanie themselves are not aware of, or perhaps have not thought out. And down the line, they all will wake up to realize that somebody made a mess of their livelihood and their assets. Somebody. And I usually say, they say a stitch in time saves 9. And if I can contribute towards awakening, or an awakening among the residents of Melanie, to pay more attention to what is happening and prevent future distress, then I would have fulfilled part of my role as an activist. I mean, like all of you knew, I really didn't comment on James and the hamper story loosely. Let me say that. I examined the implications. And today I'm going to continue to examine those implications. Right? But let me start by saying, congratulations, James Bond. You have done what a lot of quote-unquote seasoned politicians have not been able to do. You've been able to get the Mohammeds to dedicate a lot of resources to Melanie, the residents of Melanie Damishano, named after, or for, whichever people like to say, the daughter of Forbes Burnham, from the leader of the PNC, arch rival of the PPP, right? A PPP enclave, a PNC enclave, a PNC stronghold. Good? You've been able to do that. But you were not able to do it when your government was in office. As in the PNC. You weren't able to do it when the PNC/APNU was in office. Despite the Mohammeds, your good friends, you have not been able to convince them. You were not able to convince them at that time, as far as I know, to dedicate their resources to the development of a black community supportive of the PNC. Melanie Damishano by name. But when the government changed, and let me say this, had they done that during the time of the APNU in office, one would have seen it as a genuine effort at ingratiating themselves to the government. Politics, right? One would have seen it as a genuine effort of the Mohammeds want favors from the PPP, from the APNU, and so they're doing things to black people in black communities, right? That is usually seen as acceptable political behavior, right? So had you been able to really get them to do that while the APNU was in office, it would have been a feather in your cap. Good? A big, tall, colorful feather in your cap. But as a matter of fact, if I remember clearly, those were some of the people who contributed to the hardships of the APNU government. Because they're big money traders and so on, gold traders and so on. And go back and check, and you'll see all the artificial shortages created. Artificial shortages of foreign exchange and so on, and hoarding of money and gold and so on, that happened under the AP and UFC coalition to make it difficult for them to manage financially and otherwise. Go and check and see if the Mohammeds were a source of that problem. But you were close to government then, you weren't able to convince them, hey, give this government an easy time. Come, let's shake hands and bring you in. No. But congratulations to you. When the PPP is in government, when your government, assumingly so, your government is out of office, you've been able to achieve this grand feat. The Mohammeds have suddenly awakened and believe and recognize, hey, there are some people in Melanie that need some help. Let us help them. Right? James Bond is a good friend of ours. Let us work with James Bond to bring assistance to the Melanie community. Now, knowing the relationship between the Mohammeds and the PPP, that's public knowledge. That's public knowledge. But in case you don't remember, let me just draw quickly to your memory that the Mohammeds provided security details for the fat guy while he was campaigning, and shortly after he became president. Mr. Kisun, good morning.
Good morning, Kadaki. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How may I help? I'm live.
Oh, but I hear you mean we can get to no signal. We get to no nothing.
Well, just look for the CAMS page and find it there because I'm live.
All right.
Good. Facebook Live CAMS. Yes. Provided security detail in armored vehicle, perhaps, and so on and so forth for the fat guy. They were handed a couple $100 million in contract not so long ago, just after or around the same time with its jams, statement construction. Right? They have the ears, they have the ins and outs with the PPP government. Right? And so when you look at the relationship between the Mohammeds and the PPP, and the fact that they suddenly woke up, or James was suddenly able to get them to go into Melanie, a black community predominantly supportive of the PNC, APNU, and invest, notice I'm saying invest now, large sums of money. One has to ask, what they call it, quid pro quo? What's in it for them? Let me just ask that. Right? Let me just ask that. What is in it for them? Well, I want to address the what is in it for them. You see, a lot of people believe the hampers was the beginning and end of it all. No? The hamper was not the beginning and end of it all. The hamper was just the beginning. You remember the story of Troy? That gift horse, they say don't look a gift horse in the mouth, but I believe if they had looked the gift horse in the mouth, then they would have realized that there were people in the wooden horse, and they would have saved themselves. But in Melody, they didn't look the gift horse in the mouth. They saw it as, them Mohammeds feeling generous, right? The Mohammeds are feeling generous, and so they brought things to give us. The gifting of the emperors was just to gain the goodwill of the community. It was just to gain the goodwill of the community. And it was facilitated by James Bond. Right? People are making a whole lot of fuss about James holding an umbrella. I ain't interested in an umbrella. I'm interested in the deeper significance, the deeper implications of the introduction of the Mohammeds to Melanie with these hampers. They will argue that it's Melanie and surrounding areas. But guess what? Melanie is ground zero. Surrounding areas, just leave it out there. Morning. Yeah, just leave it by the gate. You brought monitor? Oh. Okay, good. Leave it by the gate. Yes. Where am I? It happens. Yes. You see, sometimes you want to get to a specific target, but to go to it directly would raise a lot of eyebrows, as we say. So you go around. Right? You go around. But you know where you're heading. And that is what is being done right now. That is what James Bond and the Mohammeds are doing right now. So we bring the hampers for goodwill. We say it's to Melanie and surrounding areas, but we're going to distribute it in Melanie. So that where it's ground zero is where most of the beneficiaries are likely to come from, in Melanie, number one. Number two, we're going to distribute it on the play field in Melanie. Right? So the point of focus will be, excuse me, the playfield in Melanie. And so the hampers were distributed. The whole hullabaloo about the hamper and umbrella gate and all kind of thing is going on. But what people don't realize, or a lot of people have not paid attention to, I mentioned yesterday, that by information, I received the information that the Mohammeds have an interest in the playfield. And James Bond will facilitate them having a way with the playfield. I was informed later in the day yesterday, as somebody said, Mr. Amsterdam, you're right on point. James had a live at 11 o'clock. And he was showing that the Mohammeds have already started working on the playfield. Right? And he sent me the link, and I went and I saw the link. Some things that stood out to me. Which philanthropy, assuming that the Mohammeds just feel philanthropic, leaves their home at 10:30 in the night to go and check out a ball field? I'll answer me. According to Bond, I'm paraphrasing, Mr. Mohammed left. Mr. Mohammed went to the ground, to that area, 10:30 in the night, to have a look at it. And said, I want this done, that done, the other done. And by yesterday, his workmen were already on the playfield with steel tied. By that time, 11 in the morning, steel was already tied. Loads of sand was already on the way. I think some amount of digging had already started. And you're telling me, all of y'all could tell me, that that is a plan that was put into place within a short period of time. Right? Within that short period of time, let's say 48 to 72 hours, right? Good. And according to James' instruction is I want this place finished by within a week, right? To get the place finished within a week, it means that serious resources will have to be spent. Because people are going to be doing overtime hours, and sometimes you get round-the-clock work and all of that. I want you all to pay attention to that. Based on James's utterances, you're going to have an international standard basketball court, football field, futsal venue. Those are some of the things which you're going to have on that playfield. International standard. Now, many governments are incapable of providing international standard of anything. Even this Guyana government is incapable of providing international standard of anything for its citizens. But here is a private individual providing international standard of several things on this Melanie playfield for the residents of Melanie and, let's say, surrounding areas. I heard the names of some councillors called who James apparently previously had conversations with about clearing the ball field and so on. My good friend, I heard Councillor Tudor, my good friend Petal Telford and so on. I haven't called Petal, but I will have to call Petal because I want to find out what the arrangements are. Because the reality is, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars based on my estimation will be expended on that ground. Right? Hundreds of millions will be expended on that ground. And after that expenditure, the question is, who becomes the beneficial owners of the ground? Yes, the residents of Melanie and surrounding areas might have access to the ground and the facilities, but the questions I want to ask, will the access be free access? Who will be in control? Who will be managing the affairs of the ground? Who will control the financial affairs of the ground? What is the role of the Neighborhood Democratic Council in the management of the ground? As a matter of fact, currently, what is the role of the Neighborhood Democratic Council in the management of that ground? What is the role of the Neighborhood Democratic Council in this arrangement that we're seeing unfolding before our eyes, where a private individual is developing a community ground? Right? Or private individuals are developing a community ground. Were consultations held with the residents, or consultations were just, or discussions were just held with a few councillors? Did those councillors go to the residents and discuss the proposals? Were the proposals accepted by the residents? Is the Neighborhood Democratic Council aware of these arrangements and these proposals? Those are some of the questions I want to ask. Because, hear me, they say there's no free lunch. There's no free lunch. And I do not see, under the stars, for as long as I live, I can't imagine it. As I like to say, God himself got to come and tell me that that is pure philanthropy on the part of the Mohammeds. I do not see any private individual investing millions of dollars, multiple millions of dollars, into a community ground without looking for payback. What will be the payback? Maybe it's a prime venue. Maybe it's a prime venue for hosting of international shows, for hosting of international football, for hosting of international events, entertainment events. Right? Maybe it's the leeway into looking for political patronage from the residents of the community. Maybe James has bigger political, well, not bigger political intentions. I think James has already declared in some way, shape, or form that he would like to be the president of this country. So maybe James is making his move, along with the Mohammeds, financed by the Mohammeds, to establish a new political party. And he wants to start in Melanie to say, well, hey, I have what it takes to deliver. I've delivered to you an international quality stadium-like facility. I have contacts with the financiers. We have good relationships. Or maybe it's an investment, so when the time comes around, we can say, hey, I was the person who was able to bring this into the community. And I am saying now that my support is with the PPP, and so I think you should support the PPP, and we will get much, much more than this. Right? Those are just some of my thoughts running around. There is no free lunch. What are the intentions behind this investment? But what I know for a fact, whatever the intentions are, unless the residents of Melanie pay keen attention, get involved in this process, be interrogative, unless they interrogate what is happening right now as we speak in Melanie, there will be a lot of bawling and gnashing of teeth in the future. I dare say that. You see, I can tell you without beyond a shadow of a doubt that there are lots of business people who are now setting their eyes on community assets. There are lots of business people setting their eyes on community assets. Mohammed's won't be the first. Last year I mentioned to you a popular car dealer wanting to take over and develop a play field in Enmore. I think it's the Blossom Scheme area. Right? And millions of dollars were offered as bribes to councillors of the Enmore NDC. And a particular regional chairman was in favor. He was a go-in-between, trying to convince councillors that they should support the idea. Right? So it's not the first you are hearing of big business people, the well-to-do, trying to take over community assets. As a matter of fact, that businessman intended to not only fence and develop the playfield, but he wanted to put a swimming pool in the playfield. Right? When I talked there, I remember Pablo Escobar. I think Pablo Escobar was the Medellin cartel guy. But Pablo Escobar owned so many. As a matter of fact, they said he had enough money to pay off the debts of Colombia. The entire international debt of Colombia he could have paid off. He created communities. He owned communities within Colombia. A lot of businessmen are moving in that direction in this country. And so unless people are vigilant, you wake up one morning and find a situation like Gabi had to sing about, excuse me. Right? You remember the situation with Gabi? What Gabi sang about when the residents of that Trinidad couldn't use the beach? That you only got no community center ground. It only names some, but it is lots of things to consider in this particular instant. Melanie, community assets. The goons would like to put their hand cigar on something, cognac on cigar or whatever. Market Street or Plaza Road. Under the PPP, I think some efforts were made to resuscitate it, and then I saw it in disrepair again. And so the question I want to ask, is that going to be the next move of the Mohammeds and Bonds? Are they likely to move in on the Melanie Shopping Plaza? I don't know whose ownership, whose stewardship the Melanie Shopping Plaza lies, but I want to believe it's some co-op of some form. Right? But Melanie, Damashanians, or whatever you call yourself, right? Residents of Elizabeth Hall, Melanie Damashana, y'all be careful. Moves are afoot, I understand. To appropriate the Melanie Shopping Plaza. Right? So if it were a co-op, co-op members, arise and awake. Get your act in order and take control of your property. The Melanie Shopping Plaza. There are also a few other commercial buildings located in Melanie there. I can't name them all right now in their location, but I'm visualizing them. A lot of them might be in a defunct state for some reason or other. But now that you have James Bond bringing the Mohammeds and his friends, our ancestors were enslaved and influenced our own to hand them over, whether by force or otherwise. They come from a heart, and we will do anything. Be careful. That's all I can say, Melanie. When I started talking and get to hold on to what is rightfully theirs. James liked to claim that he has roots in Melanie. He spent some time in Melanie, like he spent some time elsewhere. Right? Spending some time in Melanie doesn't make you the most important arbiter for Melanie. It doesn't give you the transport to Melanie to do as you feel should be done for Melanie. I was born at Georgetown Hospital, but as we like say, born and grew, hey, I was bred in Buxton. I lived all of my life, save and except for about 4 in Buxton. But that doesn't give me the transport to Buxton to do as I like. Community assets must be decided upon by the community. And not because you're an elected councillor representing a community, you have a right as an individual to decide on what is best for the community. The community must be consulted on the way forward. And so I'm saying to my good friend Petal Telford and Councillor Tudor, if you are in consult with the residents of Melanie on this issue, this grand development for the playfield, you ought to stop the process and consult the residents. Because when anything goes wrong, and the residents realize they lose their assets because of poor representation, you should be made to feel the brunt of their aggression. I say no more. It's 7:56. I want to stop right there. Open the lines. Let's talk. 6225933. Being an elected councillor, does that give you the right to make decisions on behalf of the community without consulting it? That's one of the questions this morning. Do you believe that the Mohammeds are investing in Melanie out of pure philanthropy? Or there are more, there's more in the martyr than there is in the pestle? Lines have been open. Lines have been open, that is. Call it live. Good morning.
Morning, Kadaki, and do get well soon. Morning, Guyana. What we've got to understand is that James Bond is being cultivated and the people there are doing have to understand what's happening. What we got
Morning, neighbor, morning. Welcome to another program of BUXTONIAN Morning Time. This is our Monday morning's edition. It is the 10th of January, the year 2021. I'm your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. We're coming to you live from the studios of KAMSTV in Buxton and broadcasting on Facebook Live. Trust you would have had a wonderful weekend. I trust you remain safe and healthy. I trust that you're energized to face a new day, to face these new challenges which are starting to confront you. Usually we do the stretch from 6 to 9. Today I will have to stop the program at about 15 minutes to 8 or thereabout because, as you know, myself and others are before the court. We were before the court for that protest last year. The last time we were at court, I reported to you what transpired. In short, the prosecutor had no case jacket to present to the magistracy. And so he was given up until today. They were given up until today. They say they were reconstructing the jacket because the breakdown fires had destroyed that. And so they were given up to today to present the case because we opted for trial. We pled not guilty. Right? Just this last week I was telling you that fire didn't destroy only case files at the Breakdown police station, but a lot more was lost in those fires at the Breakdown police station, fires at the DPP's office, fire at the police construction department, fire at the Georgetown hospital, and so on. Right? The PPP may be referred to as the fire marshals. Good? Because every time they are in office, we get fires. Right, so we are going to court today and we are expecting that it's the last day for court for us. Because I'm of the firm belief that there will be no case to present. And even there's a case that will be presented, it's not a case that can be proven. Right? And so I'll be off to court shortly. Good? But there are some things that we have to talk about this morning. And I wish I had the full length of 2 hours or so to talk about it because it has to be examined from several angles. And that is the behavior of the current leader of the opposition, Mr. Joseph Harmon, and the current leader. We have to talk about the behavior of these two gentlemen and the APN and the AFC. All come together. We have to talk about the behavior of people in the APNU, AFC. Right? Listen to a little drum, and then I'll come back with you and we'll talk. Can't call it a new development, but it's development. You see, sometimes you're on pure, they ain't got nothing to do with obia. It has to do with insight and forethoughts. I've been saying to you all along that while everybody's waiting on Congress or looking to Congress and the conclusion of Congress, whatever you expect from the new leader, should it turn out to be Aubrey Norton, which it has turned out to be, leader of the list is David Granger. And if David Granger did not put Aubrey Norton in Parliament in the first instance, who is to say that he would agree to put him in Parliament once he gets elected as leader of the PNC? Up the last few days, as I understand it, and it's public knowledge that they voted overwhelmingly that Aubrey Norton ought to be in Parliament and he ought to be the opposition leader. Now, in response to that, members of the APNU, they're entitled to that decision, but there is a set process in the APNU ASC, members of the APNU, and so if they want changes like the removal of Joe Harmon and so on, there's a process which the members have to go through. Now, I want to stay angles because first and foremost, who are the members of the APNUFC that wrote this statement or wrote this letter or whatever? Where did this letter come from? I'll tell you as far as I remember, the APNU, the leader of the APNU, the chairman of the APNU, I think that's the correct position name, is David Granger. The general secretary, remember the APNU, would know that it was formed by the PNC and the WPA to start with. The PNC and the WPA. Subsequently, you had JFAP joining. That's the Justice for All Party, Sharma. CN Sharma, that is. You had the GAP joining. I think that is Hardy's party. I can't remember if Hardy is still the person. But so you have the JFAP, you have the GAP. That's 2 to 4. And there's another, you had Keith Scott's party, right? Those were perhaps the 5 parties that made up the APNU. But the major partners in the APNU were really the PNC and the PNC and the WPA. Now, you will remember that the WPA walked after the elections. So the WPA is effectively not a member of the APNU. JFAP also walked. And so JFAP is not effectively a member of the APNU either. Keith Scott party walked as far as I know. Good? And so there are 3 partners out of 5, if I remember the correct construction. Permit me. 3 out of 5 partners from the APNU who left. And so the APNU that we're talking about, quite frankly, is a shell. The major partner in the APNU is the PNC. And the agreement has always been. And so Granger was leading the APNU because he was leader of the PNC. And so it should be a natural fact, that if Granger is no longer leader of the PNC, then he should be removed as the leader of the APNU and make way for the new leader of the PNC. But that is not happening. Harmon comes also from the PNC. One can argue. And so the leader of the PNC is saying, listen, these 2 folks who are currently representing us at the APNU, we want them withdrawn and replaced. Then that's a natural part of what happens. Organizations have a right to withdraw their representative or cycle them out. And I think the PNC has a right to recall David Granger and recall Harmon. But here are these two folks, quite frankly, without a constituent. They have no constituency. If you look at the numbers at the last Congress, party members have spoken overwhelmingly that here, we don't want Joe. Look at his numbers, look at his showing in the Congress, look at the leadership race. They've spoken, we don't want Joe. Granger didn't contest the leadership elections, and so he has indicated that he had no interest in the leadership. And so if you've given up the leadership of the PNC, then you also should be giving up the leadership of the APNU. It's the ethical thing to do. But none of these two old stalwarts, let me call them that, is showing a willingness to ride off into the sunshine quietly. They're holding on and making all kinds of arguments simply because they don't want to go. And while they don't want to go, they're a humbug to the Guyanese people. But you think that others who are associated with the APNU in Parliament would take a stance and say, well, it is unethical for the two of you to hold on to these positions, given the fact that you don't have the mandate of the party anymore. Instead, what you find are these people supporting this idiocy. I understand it is the AFC's position that they support, uttered allegedly by Comrade Ramjatan, that they support Harmon as leader of the opposition. The GFAP also came out and made a statement. But the fact is the GFAP left the APNU. So the GFAP really ain't got no bearing on what is happening in this so-called AP, this so-called coalition. But I want to analyze it for what it is. I want to call it for what it is. In the instance of Granger and Harmon, it is self-serving. Harmon took a chance. He gave up his U.S. citizenship. Or at least so they say. And so one would say he made a sacrifice. I don't know if he considers it the ultimate sacrifice. To forward his own business that could be damaging to him. Who ultimately controls who goes to Parliament and who gets removed from Parliament. Because he's the leader of the list. Yes. And they're doing that standing on the shoulders of the Guyanese people. Right? Standing on the shoulders of more than 270. I see it as a Punjab. Somebody. Yes. Sharma's son Jaipal has joined the APNU. But I wasn't talking about Sharma's son Jaipal. Jaipal formed his own political party and joined the APNU after the fact, after the election. Like Tabitha Sarbo Hali formed her own party and joined the APNU after the elections. Good? But JFAP coming out to make a statement on behalf of the APNU or in a matter that concerns the APNU doesn't give them any, they have no clout because they had left the coalition like the WP. Anything WP is saying right now or JFAP saying or Keith Scott Party saying or, as far as I am concerned, it could only be moral suasion. Because they're not a part of the APNU anymore. But let me address this thing that I call Apanjat, race to race. The PPP doesn't want Orbin Norton as an effective leader of the PNC, much less as leader of the opposition. They don't want that. Leading up to Congress, they tried all kinds of stunts, all kinds of infiltration and all kinds of things to ensure Orbin Norton didn't become leader of the PNC. Because they expect a different kind of confrontation or engagement. Let me say engagement. I don't know if it is going to be confrontational from Orbin Norton compared to Joe Harman. The PPP is quite comfortable with Joe as leader of the opposition. They can bend him over whenever they want, however they want, and for whatever reasons they want. My belief is that they have so much dirt on Joe that he's very pliable, and he has to be very pliable to them. And they would therefore love to keep him there. And while Joe is sitting there, while he's writing letters and throwing baby tantrums, if you want to call it that, he's just acting for the cameras. And even that he's doing poorly. Because deep down under, he knows that the PPP has its strings. And so he's ineffective. And they know that. And they would like an ineffective opposition leader. They don't want any real engagement with the representatives of the opposition. And the only time they can continue getting along like that is if they have Joe in that seat. And so they don't want him there. So they will do anything to keep Joe there. They don't want Aubrey there. Aubrey is still to be tested in that seat, quite frankly. So while many of us might have our hopes up, the reality is Aubrey is still to be tested and delivered, but he has not been given the chance to be tested and delivered in that seat. Against the will of the people, I dare say. So the PPP will continue to try to keep Joe there. Sharma, JVP, from the time the Savitri was convinced that come hell or high water the PPP was going to be installed in office, she jumped ship. She gave up on the APNU. While the Sharma party, Savitri is a force behind it. Sharma is part of his former self. She jumped ship. They sent out congratulatory messages to the PPP. They expressed their offered an olive branch to the PPP because they themselves wanted an olive branch. They're afraid of the PPP. They got big business interests to protect. And so what the PPP wants, the PPP gets. So if the PPP wants Joe Harman, then the Sharmas will support Joe Harman. Cameron Ramjatan has forever been blowing hot and cold as the leader of the AFC. He came from the belly of the beast. Deep down within, he is PPP. He will always be PPP. And most importantly, he will always be Indian and he will always look out for Indian interests. And if he believes that Orbin Norton, as many are arguing, is bad news to the PPP and the Indian cohorts, then it's natural that Cameron Ramjatan will take that same position and support it. But we should find out. We perhaps should do a public poll. Did the AFC have a caucus? A meeting to discuss this new development before that statement was allegedly made by Kebraj? Or is it a Kebraj Ramjatan's position? Fatima Punch is asking if one of the MP can step down and give Norton a seat. No. An MP can step down, MPs can resign from Parliament. But David Granger, at the end of the day, has to appoint their replacement. And even if he appoints Aubrey Norton to Parliament, that still doesn't make Norton leader of the opposition. Joe has to give up that position by way of resignation or a vote of no confidence brought on him, and successfully so. And then the MPs will have to vote for the leader of the opposition. So it's, at the end of the day, it all comes back to what Granger would do and wouldn't do. One would expect that these two gentlemen would do the ethical things, and that is vacate their positions and give the new leader of the PNC the freedom to act in the interest of the party. Who is this? Hello. Morning. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 10 will be okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. So that's what you're dealing with. People who are looking out for their own self-interest, not the interest of the people they get their political support from. In the instance of Joe Harmon and David Granger, they're not looking after the interest of the majority of PNC supporters, the delegates who represent people, who represent members in the PNC. Because the delegates have spoken, we don't want Harmon. And by extension, we don't want Granger. Or as a matter of fact, Granger gave up the job. He did not reapply for it. For him to remain party leader, he had to reapply for it, in that he had to contest the election. But he knew to himself that he was going to get a fine cocktail also. And knowing the man's ego, he couldn't stand being beaten at a leadership election by a man named Aubrey Norton. He couldn't stand it. And so he didn't take the chance of going into the race. So if you give up the leadership job, then give up the representative of the list, which you got simply because you were leader of the PNC. I understand the only person that did the decent thing in this whole arrangement is Amnali. I understand Amna resigned. She held a position, I can't remember if she was deputy leader of the list, or if she was chief scrutineer on the list or whatever, but I understand that she has withdrawn from that position. What happened to the others? You only got political integrity? Every time I hear Ramjatan opens his mouth recently, all I'm seeing is Ramjatan positioning himself for a new embrace with the PPP. Whenever the next elections are called, I will not be surprised to see Ramjatan on their slate, or the entire AFC on their slate. I said it before, maybe not as openly as that, but I'm saying it now. And so all of these masquerades that you're having from Ramjatan, supporting this lunacy, is all self-serving for himself and the AFC. Of course, we know Granger and Harmon acting in their best interest, their own interest, not necessarily the people whose shoulder they stood upon to get there. It's now 7:31 hours. I'll give you 20 minutes to call in. Or 15 minutes. Let's do 15 because I'll use the other 5 to disappear. Six two two 5933 is the number to call. Let me hear your opinions on this matter. Remember, I have to get out of here because I have a date with the court. Hopefully, it's the first and final one for the year. But for as long as there is activism, activists and look forward to being before the courts. Trust me. Because you can't allow yourself to be daunted by the possibility of getting locked up on some trumped-up charge and so on, so long as you're an activist and you're serious about your activism. 622-5933 is the number to call. Call and let's talk the thing. God, it seems as though we're too early for calls. Nobody is prepared. So, got a nasty one that's breaking now. But that's a good sign. It shows that I'm in recovery. Call your live. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. Good morning, all viewers. I had to come out of my sick bed this morning to make sure my voice is heard this morning. I'm pretty sure I want to start with Kemraj Ramlachan and the AFC. You know, we sit around and we want to talk about Kemraj Ramlachan, but I have been calling out Kemraj Ramlachan forever because I know him personally, but I need to move the goalpost a little this morning. We have to remember that people like Sherrod Duncan is also in Kemraj party, and Cathy Hughes, and those people, and we got to put pressure on them also. You know, we've been following Sherrod all over the place. We need to start putting pressure on Sherrod to call out Kemraj. We know Kemraj is PPP. We know Kemraj is another head of that snake because I call him out all the time. But we need to also put pressure on the other AFC members and let's see where they stand, because they're enjoying our support, spinning off of the PNC. So we need to put pressure on them also. As for Granger and Harmon, yes, we need to do a public poll, or we need to sign a petition and petition Granger and Harmon and see where they stand on that. So that's all I want. You don't have enough time this morning, so that's all I want to say this morning.
Thank you, caller, and thank you for your consideration. 622-5933 is the number to call. It remains open. I have a voice note. Let's play it.
Good morning, Mr. Kodaki. I can't understand why Mr. Granger will not want to leave on a high note. He has done his part. He has done good. He has united the people. And for now to leave with bad waters, the people don't want you. The people don't want you. Go your way. You're already a big person. Go and relax, Mr. Armand. The people don't want you. Go and leave on a high note instead of you just causing this corruption. I don't understand our people at all, boy. Can't get it. They can't get it right at all. Wait, what you're fighting for? You have to die and leave all these things and you're fighting. Then what will you say about the PPP? You're behaving just like them. May God be with these people, I tell you.
Voice note.
Good morning, sir. I said this before, and I'm saying it again. Harmon and Granger, Cathy Hughes, And the whole cohort of them already take their share and went off and living comfortable on the back of the Guyanese people. Ramjatan was always a PPP, and he would always be a PPP. So Ramjatan and Ganesh Maipal and all these guys who are talking, they were always PPP, and they will always be PPP. That's the reason why they're supporting Harman. They're supporting Harman to oppress the PNC because they don't want the PNC to get into power. If Norton get into office, he would expose the dark secret of the Harman, Granger, Ramjatan, Raphael Chatman, Cathy Hughes, and the whole cohort of them. That's my take this morning.
Lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. Voice notes. Well, this is two. Yes, these are.
I'm not too sure. It's the jail, the bond, the cinema. Where James Bond was, where James Bond is there's where they had the office, and what other place it got? I don't got no other place. It's just the bond, the jail, the cinema. Leave where James Bond what is right now was the office and the shopping plaza. And if so be that it had a co-op for the plaza, it gonna the old folks die out who gonna know everything like Joe Bacchus, many other older folks, and if they're not died or dead, they will be overseas. And most of these younger folks that is fighting up with James Bond knows nothing about Melanie. They didn't born, some of them, when those things was in existence. They weren't born. And some of them, when they born, they were very little. When the cinema almost, come to an end, the shopping plaza and those things, many of them are strangers to Melanie that is standing with thing and say, oh, them is Melanie man and them is Roots man. But they're very young. They're very young. I am from there. I'm living at Golden Grove at the moment, but I am from there. Many people don't know the history, a thing, and I don't know why he didn't go and open this business place in one wife community and see if he would get the support that he getting, and then he bringing in stranger to do things. Melanie North and Melanie South is one playground. It already has a playground, and the same Melanie people them supporting James Bond saying, look at that Golden Grove North and South. It's one playground, not two playground. Over North, we got some extra people. If us people go and squat there, some of them is squatters, some of them is not from the scheme. Which scheme got two playground? The only thing Melanie is short of is a burying ground and a police outpost or a police station. If Bonham was alive or people they maintain, Melanie would have named a town because it's everything you could have get in Melanie. If anybody for said that how their roots is Melanie Damashana, I am one of them and many others, but most of these people die out or they give the place to other relatives. Some of them sell and some of them overseas. Most of the people now at Melanie are strangers. Most of the people them are strangers. Them already know nothing about Melanie. They just come and live at Melanie. Where James Bond is right now, there's where it at the co-op office. Joe Bacchus, it had many other persons, my father, many other persons, things that used to run the rice field and run certain things. There's where the co-op office went with all the documents and such like. And when James Bond got there, James Bond didn't go and tell people he wanted the place to use for a night spot. He said, oh, he's doing a recreation thing for the children, and we're going to get a little trampoline, and they're going to get little days, and they can get little educational thing going on, little classes, whatever. And he do it like for a month or a little while, and then into business. So he didn't pay nothing there, and there is wrong. They're using trick, and now we bringing in other people to do other things. And Melanie, when people talk, you're going to hear say, oh, it's you and one development. You tell me the night spot. What we gaining from the night spot? What the community gaining from the night spot? They're losing income. They're losing money because they're going there and spend the money. And who getting rich? A man that has money already. You tell me, if it wasn't for Mohammed, a small man could have go and say, but he doing thing at a piece of land there. You tell me a small man could have go and do it? Or a APNU man could have go do it without a big fight and a big shout and all the way oh, the Ghana squat and the government says government resolve and nothing can go there and this and that. No, it's the influencer Mohammed. And James Wan saying it is not that we don't like James Wan or we hate James Wan, but we hate the things that he's doing. How can you do that? Can James Wan carrying some black people at Enmore see a piece of land and go and develop it? Can he do it at Enterprise or any other Indian area? There's what hurting us. It's not that we don't want development, that we don't want thing, but it's who you're doing it with. When he was campaigning, he wasn't behaving like that. He wasn't saying the things that he is saying now. That is what getting us upset.
Calling live, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kadaki. Good morning to public. Listen, public. Listen, this is why Charan Das could have do what he did. Because there are many of them in the AFC who has pledged allegiance to the PPP party, right? And they are going to be like that until the end of time, right? We're not going to get any change. And the few in our party, which is the APNU AFC, they have infiltrated our ranks, you know. I don't know why Mr. Arman don't do the right thing. He knows that he lost the election fair and square, right? And by a wide margin. Step down and give Ari Norton a chance, you know, for the leadership of the party, right? The role is not an easy role, right? It's not an easy role. And I don't know why this guy don't step down. And Granger and all, he's just a placeholder, you know. Why is it these guys taking up space in the party, right? Probably they have their own agenda, and the agenda is not in keeping with the APNU party or the PNC party. These guys need to step aside. They need to step aside. Persons from civil society who are aligned with the PNC party, we have to come out and let our voice be heard. That Granger and Arman needs to go. And this guy Cameron Jitan, who's blowing at here all the time, he allegiance it with the PVP party. And persons in the AFC who don't agree with him need to call him out for what he is. They need to call him out. That's my take. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. You can take 2 other calls, and then I have to get out of here. The morning commute is crazy usually. All right, let me see if there are any other voice notes.
Good morning, sir. That's the price you pay in the political arena. You give up a lot. You lose. It's hard to walk away. See what I'm saying? There's a bunch of confusion now. AFC, up and coming party, come wait. They have to get power. Look how much of their people walk away. the supporters, not the supporters per se, the people who used to back them and things like that, big people. Look how much people walk away. Because Sharnas, look at Sharnas. Sharnas didn't get what he wanted, the promise he this and that, and he had to go back and tell the people, well, oh God, bye, I'm sorry, we ain't get it. So they walk away. That's the political game. And that's how political game go. You got to go in. We take a page from thing, everybody hollering. I hear Norton use Trump administration and Biden. Biden administration can't see further than the nose. It gets so bad, the Democrats want illegal people for vote, the passing law in New York. You see what I'm saying? That's the political game, buddy. There's a lot of madness. You know.
Carla, go ahead.
Good morning, Kadaki. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Carla.
Kadaki, I'm not on the topic this morning, but my take would be, I don't understand why or what the APNU is doing, but I think people need to come out and put out a big petition out there, and so the country could move forward. They are not doing what they're supposed to do. Why are they doing what they're doing? Nothing cannot move forward with Mr. Norton. Nothing cannot move forward. They have to move aside and do what they have to do so he could move in and do what is right for the country. Why would you want your country to be at such a disarray with all the money and the big oil that we have going on? You want your country to move forward. So people does not have to come to America. Guyana could be just as like America or any other parts of the world. Why? I do not understand these people. They have family members not sitting, not calling them up and tell them, you want your country to do better so your people could come back and visit or stay, whatever. Come on. Oh, Kadaki, Kadaki, I don't know. Have a good day. Kadaki, what's up with Rhonda? Is she okay?
Yes, she is.
All right. Okay, good. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. This is short and sweet morning. Voice note, I'm preparing to leave.
Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. Mr. Harmon is one of the biggest hypocrites ever made. The guy came on your program and he said before the Congress that the leader of the opposition and the leader of the party should be one and the same person. It has always been that, and it should be the same. Now, we lost the election. He's singing a different tune. He doesn't want to give up the post. And something needs to be done to get rid of this guy. And Granger, he's just a waste of time. I don't know what this guy's problem is. You know, as far as Ramjatan is concerned, he has never left the PPP. I have never heard Mr. Ramjatan say anything bad about the PPP. Thank you.
Thank you, voice noter. All right, let me just say, like I said, I wish I had 2 hours to talk about this issue, but there's still a lot that can be discussed about it. But the long and short, that caller just pointed out something to us. I don't know. Cloak and dagger. Like I'm saying that, you have the Mohammeds coming into Belen saying we will develop this play field because XYZ. We want to see the youths comfortable and get opportunities and so on. Here's a caller saying that James Bond used the same strategy. Right? Callers allege that James Bond said to the people of Belen here, I want this spot to create some recreation for the young people. Recreation indeed. Right? How many youths, as in youths, can turn up there to go and jump on a trampoline based on what this caller is saying now? It's a night spot. Right? I'm not saying that. The caller also asks what benefit comes to the community from the night spot. I dare argue that there are lots of benefit because the fact is there are lots of spin-off businesses around the night spot. And I'm sure they benefit. A lot of people sell food and so on out there. And the crowd is usually grand if I am to go by hearsay, because like I said, I never went. I have no interest in going. I don't do crowds, right? But we have to assess what we're dealing with, and we have to have foresight. They say don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I will always encourage you, you open the damn mouth to the gift horse and check it. Right? When the slave traders were bringing our people from Africa, they were checking even the anuses to ensure they were getting what they said they were getting. Good? It's as small as that. It's as simple as that. We have to be more vigilant. And in our vigilance, we must be prepared to respect and protect our community assets, regardless of who tries to take them under what guises. It's as simple as that. Not because they look like us, they have our interests at heart. I keep repeating that. Sometimes people just are concerned about their own interest. Why Harmon is holding on? Why Granger is holding on? I grew up hearing they say that there are certain things which are dangerous to certain people. Black man, power is dangerous to black man. The Amerindians, or Buckman as they loosely call them, at least in this kind of discourse, that's how they were described when I was growing up. Now we call them Amerindians, we call them respectfully indigenous people. Education. Kwaliman, money. Those are the dangers we have among the different ethnic groups in this country. Right? When an Indian man has money, he believes he is God. I explained that to you already. The more money you have, the closer you are to God. And he behaves like that. He uses his money to do people all kinds of things. An Amerindian man with education thinks he has arrived. And he's the smartest thing around. Never mind when he gets pissing drunk, he gets as stupid or behaves as stupid as I don't know what. Right? But black man in power, my God. Have a great day, y'all. Talk to you tomorrow. Dr. Hines will be on. And then Wednesday, maybe I'll continue to talk about this Harmon Granger lunacy. Have a great day. We are off to court, and we expect to be victorious at the end of it all. Goodbye. Stay safe.